Hello boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm the Nvida GT. For today what I have here is Project Cars 2. So Project Cars 2, it is a game developed by the Slightly Mad Studios. This is the same developers that were behind Project Cars 1, Need for Speed Shift series, and the classic GTR games that probably you don't remember, but they were great simulators at the time of the 2000s. Okay, so let's take a look on the settings that I'm going to run the game. So I'm running the game with 720p, all the stuff at the minimum possible with the exception of the texture resolution. So I did change the texture resolution from low to medium because the wafers on the car are really bad with the textures on low, so I decided to move on with two textures on medium, which doesn't really impact that much the performance, but delivers a much better frame rate. So here are the results that I got without recording. So I decided to start with the worst case scenario. This is on Azure Coast Stage 1 with a thunderstorm going on and with 31 cars where we start in the last place. So with the settings that I show you with the 720p on minimum, what I got was an experience above 30 frames per second. So this is a very good results in my opinion. Although if you go with the low settings, well, that is not really that good because the frame rate never even reached 30 frames per second. So I think that is pretty much unacceptable, but keep in mind that the thunderstorms and the rain are pretty much the most demanding weather system that you are going to get. Because of that I decided to test a different track with a more regular weather like summer, and instead of having 31 cars on the race, I decided to drop it to 21. This will be more or less in line with the career races, okay? And as you can see, the performance is now much better. So with the 720p on minimum, I got an average of 48 with a 1% low of 37. While the low settings, it is now above 30 frames per second on the average, but sometimes the game do drop from the 30s to some values lower than it, okay? So you might ask, what is the difference between the minimum settings and the low settings that I did use in here? So the low settings actually have some extra things in graphics that make it much more demanding. For example, the minimum settings, you don't have any shadows at all, there are no shadows, while on the low settings you get shadows from the cars, environment, buildings, all that kind of stuff. You also have grass in the low settings outside the track, for example, or in this case in the middle of the circle parts of the streets. And also with the low settings you get particles. That is something that is absent on the minimum settings. So as you can see, we are in the middle of a thunderstorm and there is no particles getting wafted up from the cars. You can clearly see the road. But if you raise the graphics to the low settings, what you're going to get is pretty much a lot of particles that you can barely see the road because of the other cars that are in front of you, okay? But the thing is, if you go with the low settings, that's the problem. You go with the low settings, you don't even get 30 frames per second, and that is really bad. So I think the game is still playable with the 720p minimum settings because it is above the 30 frames per second all the time, and I think that is pretty good. Despite obviously Project Cars should be a game that you should enjoy at 60 frames per second, but with this laptop it's pretty much impossible. So having 30 frames per second, it is still good, and in fact the game with the low settings or with the minimum ones do look pretty great. So as you can see, we still have reflections on the floor, so it's not really that bad looking. It's just, well, disappointing that we miss stuff like the particles, for example, but you are free to turn it on if you want. Okay, so for now I think that's all that I want to talk about Project Cars 2. By the way, you might be a little bit kind of confused because I told you that I get frame rate above 30 frames per second, and you are now looking to MS Afterburner overlay and you are seeing like 28 and 27. This is because of OBS. OBS consumes some frames, okay, so this is normal. That the performance that is displayed on the MS Afterburner, it is actually lower than the one that I get without recording. That is why I display you the results before starting, the race, in order for you to have a better idea what the performance that you can expect, okay? So Right now, this concludes all that I want to talk about Project Cars 2 on this laptop. Hope you did enjoy the video so far. I still have some more video a little bit more forward into this, so I'm going to say goodbye. But you still have one more race to see, which is on the Nürburgring. I think it's how it's spelled, I'm very sorry. With that sun, weather and those 21 cars, okay? In order for you to see how the graphics look like, okay? So guys, hope you enjoyed the rest of the video, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.